What's up, Zoxaskun? Now, we are well over 50 hours invested into Wuthering Waves, and unlike the 30-hour video, which I definitely recommend that you guys should check out if you want more of a baseline understanding of that experience, I think that now we have a much more solidified idea of what Wuthering Waves is. And I want to kind of talk about not only some of the things that we didn't really get into, but also the free-to-play experience and how that kind of feels. And let me explain, because I know somebody's gonna say,
"Oh, well, nobody's spending money, so what do you mean by that?"
We'll get into it, all right? So let's go ahead and let's get into the characters, okay? Now, the thing that I want to actually talk about here, and this is in relevance to the free-to-play experience. Now, for me, I have not been fortunate enough to actually get any 5-stars that I wanted to use. I mean, to be fair, my first 5-star was Verena. And Verena is a healer, a good healer at that. But the thing is that she's not really required for me, in my opinion. Now, with that, what have I been actually using? I have been using MC, Yang, Tao Chi. We've been using Yuan Wu or Mortefi. And these are like the base units that I've just kind of stuck with for the most part, giving me one of each attribute. So we got a Spectra, we got an Arrow, we got a Havoc, a Electric, and I think that's Electro. And then we also have a fusion unit that we are just taking advantage of to have one of each attribute. Now, the thing is though, and this is kind of one of the beauties of the game, a lot of people don't realize that all but MC are 4-stars. The thing about MC, I think usually MCs in most games like this are categorized as 4.5 stars, but I'm gonna be 100% transparent. I feel like MC's a 5-star. The thing is though, is that of course, because this is a unit that is freely given and everyone's going to have it, this does allow this character to fall under the free-to-play experience. And I think that what they've been able to accomplish is they actually, for one, have made a extremely cool MC. An MC that is probably not just cool, but one of the easiest scaled units in the game. I think before I even was even aware of the fact that I needed to ascend my characters, like for example, taking MC, for example, I already had majority of her resources just from kind of playing the game. Now they do incorporate the finding the caskets or the code caskets for you to be able to get the additional resources for you to raise your ascension level. So the mysterious code is where you'll get, or what you'll get for trading in your caskets. The thing about that is that it just basically means go explore, right? And that's a really good thing. It's not like trying to limit you in any way. It's just like go explore. What you'll probably come across is chests, different minions, which is going to go into your echo farming, which you need to do. And then on top of that, I think it just really honestly is allowing you to be immersed in the universe. Some of the big takeaways with what I've been able to do as a free-to-play, I think it's safe to say, right? The scaling in the progression is really good. And obviously if you spend, I think the biggest thing that you'd be spending for is basically for you to be able to pull more, right? I think also too, if you're spending or if you're summoning a lot, it's gonna allow you to clear out those resource shops that come from the summon currencies that you get for you to be able to have additional resources go into your characters. Some of the big takeaways, for example, like what I've noticed that's been the most beneficial for me at least, is actually scaling up. And we haven't actually talked much about the skill ups of your characters. And I'm pretty sure some people might not even be aware that there is a skill tree to each character, but the skill tree is going to be a massive thing, because what this is going to allow you to do is to see higher percentages on your skills, right? Now, the thing is that just taking these up to level 4 has massively raised the value of my MC. And not only that, the other or additional nodes that you will get is going to also increase things such as attack or spectral damage. Depending on the character, you might have HP, you might have defense. And then on top of that, they also allow you to get some additional effects. So like for example, the Whispers, the damage of resonance skill revolving strikes is increased by 60%. That's huge. Then when you have the very next one, which is the inherent skill. So after casting heavy attack, resonance of the Rover's attack is increased by 15%, lasting 5 seconds. So skill ups are going to be a massive thing to your character and the overall scaling. And then one of the things that I do kind of appreciate with what they did with the MC is that they give you the dupes for free, right? So you don't have to go crazy with like, oh man, like I need to try to do this and do that for the dupes. No, it's just the stuff you need to be doing anyway, which is the exploration. You need to be turning in your stuff. So it's the association, it's the casket manager or the casket shop that you need to go to. Those two things, and I think as well as echoes give you different rewards as well for the data bank. These are going to allow you to be able to flesh out what I would say easily is one of the strongest characters on your account, especially if you're going to be free to play. So don't shy away from MC being invested or involved in your account, because this is definitely truly a very good unit. I would even argue that MC is to a degree can be considered a hyper carry in certain ways. Having more time invested into the actual character portion, the big takeaway is that the free-to-play experience, you're not going to necessarily need a 5-star. And I think that that's kind of one of the things that I'm coming to terms with, is that even with Yang Yang or Tao Chi or Yuan Wu, they have really good kits. So I don't feel like I need to have a 5-star. What I think 5 stars are going to allow you to have is the ease of something. So those that are using Xian, for example, he's really good at AoEing, and he makes it very easy to do. Whereas with Yang Yang, you have to be more positioned and angled properly in order to be able to get those, the tornado or have her resonance liberation to be able to suck in the opponents at the right time. And so you have those kinds of balances where it's like, you know, more manual gameplay versus Ooga Booga, which I think is fair, because in all actuality, that's what people spending are paying for. Yes, you might have to work a little harder to use the character, but it doesn't mean that you can't clear something, which I think is the point that I'm getting at. Now, I did want to take the time to revisit the echoes after actually now getting my data bank to level 15, where I'm able to actually start seeing the highest rank of echoes drop. This is going to be the grind to the game. Okay, so the thing is, and what they have done really well is how they present it and dressed up. If you come from Genshin, the artifact system, or if you're coming from HSR, the relic system, they dress this up via echoes. And this is definitely one of the best things to me about the game. It's not just about doing a dungeon and getting a gear drop and hoping it's the stats you want, but you're actually going out and you're farming, you're actually going and hunting in a sense. So you're actually fighting and destroying these different echoes with the hopes that they drop the said stats that you need. Now, there's a couple of different things that I think is worth noting here, is that a lot of the times, and where the grind is going to kind of come in, is that some of these echoes can drop at more than one attribute. So it's finding the right attribute for the set that you want to build, but then it's also trying to try to get the right stat that you need. So the thing that is nice though is that they did limit what kinds of stats can drop from each cost type of echo. That makes it to where you're in an isolated kind of group when you're looking or farming a cost 3 echo or a cost 4 echo. It's only going to be within that collective group of stats that can drop as a main stat. The other dilemma though, and what I would like to see in the future, and it's something that I think that like is really going to make the game more well-rounded, is when you go into upgrade, for example, you're going to have these additional substats, right? And I think that with the additional substats, it's going to be really important to have some sort of functionality or system that's going to allow you to be able to say reset or re-roll them at some point, just so that the grind doesn't feel so extensive. Now, for example, here, we're going to just go ahead and upgrade this, right? Boom. So this actually is going to be going to Rover, which is great. I mean, honestly, one of my higher scaling units. But let's go ahead and unlock another one, right? Heavy attack bonus right there. And we just need one more level, and then we'll have that very last stat. But on the rank 5s, you're getting the 5 additional substats, which is huge. So when we were trying to figure out in the beginning where a lot of your stats were coming from, I would say a combination would be, for one, your skills, right? Your skill ups, I should say. And then 2, it's really going to be that push for data bank level 15, which is going to be giving you the opportunity to take your echoes to plus 25, which is going to then be giving you even more percentages or base stats to work with, right? And so this is what is ultimately going to be the real grind and testament to your account. And again, emphasizing the free-to-play nature of this, free-to-plays are still in the playing field. It's just really honestly the way the game is set up. Whatever time you put in is what you get back. Now, obviously there's RNG, and somebody might put less time and get lucky, but that's needless to say, is just going to all be relevant to the time that you put in versus necessarily the amount of money, right? Because I think, yes, money is going to obviously help, but you're not gatekept or you're locked out of content because you're not spending. It really is just a matter of time, which when we're looking at things, it's only been about roughly 6 to 7 days where we're already now starting to see the rank 5 echoes, which is arguably starting to get us prepared for like mid-game, in-game stuff. So I think that this is actually a really smooth progression loop to already start kind of easing into. I want to touch on really quickly exploration. And the reason why I want to touch on this is because of a very important thing called synthesizing. Now, when we're actually looking at how they have set up Wuthering Waves, it is going to be of the utmost importance that you collect every last thing you see. Not only is it going to be for something important, but it's probably more 9 times out of 10 is going to be for something that is going to really benefit you, right? So there's 2 different systems that we have not touched on, and it's the synthesize and the weapon craft, right? And these are 2 things that a lot of players, like if you just jump right in and you haven't explored Jinzhou, or you're just trying to power spike and you haven't really been paying attention to it, these are 2 functionalities that you're going to be able to utilize or take advantage of for you to be able to I would say give yourself the opportunity to take some lower resources and power spike, right? So I'm gonna bring up the synthesized system here. Now the synthesized system allows you to make potions, right? Now the cool thing to understand as well is that there are going to be characters that have different proficiencies to allow you to be able to craft things, better, right? Now the other thing that's also worth noting is like, for example, because of the characters I have, none of them actually have bonuses for me to take advantage of, but if they did, they would show here. Now, the thing is, and if we go back, you have different like rarities or qualities of potions that you can make that are going to require different said plants that you find in the open world. Same thing with the structure. This is going to be super beneficial, and this is one of the things that I love about the game is that they actually have a core module, right? But they also have a casket scan component. So you can scan for caskets off rip, right? You can take the resources, these geostone rocks that you're out in the world breaking, you can craft casket scan components so that makes it easier for you to actually navigate and find where these caskets are instead of running around endlessly for hours where you can't find them. So this is a huge benefit, and all it requires you is to just be farming the outer world. This is why I said exploration is so important. And then on top of that, if you need to fuse up your resources as you are, like, say for example, at lower data bank levels where your resource drops are not as high, you definitely want to make sure that you're utilizing this system so that if you have a, say for example, a crude ring in abundance, you can craft up to those basic rings. Or if you, say for example, want to go for even more on, from your MF Howler cores into your HF Howler cores, you can craft up, right? And so that's one of the beauties of how they have this game set up, is that you have these interchanging resources. And I would say the accessibility to these are honestly pretty early, because even down to the gold, which usually you don't see this happen too often, it takes quite a bit of time for you to be able to have access to the highest rarity. They basically kind of almost give it to you in a sense, and it just requires you obviously to have the drops, and then of course you can go and fuse or synthesize up. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this part is the crafting for the weapon, right? Because the weapon craft, a lot of people might not have seen or have heard of this, but yes, you can craft a weapon. So let's go here to the blacksmith, Uncle Wei. And there's 2 things that you can do. You can actually buy different ascension resources from the rearm shop, which again, is very important that you can buy these so you don't have to always go to the dungeon to get these. You just need to have the required amount of gold for the purchase limit, which is 20, I think, every day. And then you can buy these out of the shop, or silver, sorry. Now, outside of that, you also are going to then have the crafting, which is going to allow you, when you have the proper number of resource drops, so the frag of purple, and as well as the standard weapon mold, you'll then be able to craft 4-star weapons. So even when we're looking at the gacha and whether or not you need to be pulling, the only things that I could say and what would be an emphasized thing is depending on the build that you're trying to go for, they have attack and energy regen, which is going to be your typical beginner stuff, right? But outside of that, the other things that you might really be trying to look for might be something like crit rate, which again, that's probably going to be on gear that we might get later on, or that probably is going to be on some 5-star gear. Now, the thing with that though, is does that make or break the game? Not necessarily, as long as they make it to where it's not mandatory for you to have, say, 100% crit rate in order to beat something. If you can kind of beat things with lower marginal, values, then that's not an issue. But if they do create it to where it does become one and you do need 100% crit rate, that's where we're going to have problems, right? So as long as they stay true to what I've experienced so far, which is not needing to necessarily have certain values, I think that that things will actually blow over and be very, very smooth in terms of the official release. But of course, there's always work for improvement, and I would appreciate something free to play, even if it wasn't the highest value for it. But if it was here, I think that would also give some sort of incentive to maybe for those that want those more perfected stats to then try to aim for those higher rarities via the gacha, or even cracking open a wallet because they feel like they want to versus feeling like they have to, right? So that of course is that. And so kind of let me know how you guys feel about the crafting and the synthesizing aspects of the game. Okay, so we cannot not talk about difficulty scaling. The tactical hologram is just ridiculous, and I'm just gonna show you guys floor 2. Now, floor 2, I haven't even beaten this yet, and this is just gonna be a true testament to some of the things that you'll see added to some of the bosses in the game. And with that, you're gonna have more opportunities to get different types of parries, and it just becomes much more of an awareness game. You really not only need to know what your characters do, but you got to know when the right times is to use even certain slashes, when the boss is going to move a certain way. What does that mean? So even right there, it's certain times where he staggers that and he goes much slower than he normally would. So it's if you're not aware, you're going to get wrecked every single time. So let's get a little saucy here. We're going to go for our time stop because that's damage, right? Now we got to dodge this. Otherwise we die, literally, and you don't want to swap during that move because otherwise you will be hit with some unnecessary damage, which will one-shot you. So it's even being aware of that. These are going to be things that you have to kind of practice, right? And so I'm talking right now and I'm actually in disbelief myself. Don't ask me how or why I'm able to do this right now because this should not even be possible for me. Seriously. Not at all. I don't know. I could not tell you. And even learning with even Tao Chi, she's a much slower unit, but Death Beam can't even do anything but dodge that, right? And even learning with Tao Chi, the perfect times to summon her, other characters, same thing. There are windows where it makes more sense. Right here, parry, right? I just had to stop because he was moving too much. Okay, too much, okay. He's gonna come in front, boom, another one. Let's go for the R. Let's go back to MC. Gotta dodge that, literally. Oh, come on. One more. There we go, got him. Yeah, and I try to always make sure it's ER, something like that I'm doing to make sure I'm maintaining that damage. We gotta dodge that, another parry. And then now we're gonna go for the break here. Okay, get out of the way of that. Death Beam dodge. Let's go. Get out of that. Okay, it's going to be in front. There we go. Now we can go into all our abilities. Kind of go sick real quick. Go ults. Do everything at this point. Let's go ult here. We're going to drop our E. I should have dropped the E first because that actually boosts the damage I can do. There we go. Another parry chance. Whew. Yeah, this is not easy. I promise you it's not. And some people are gonna say it probably is, but I promise you it's not. Go for the dodge, and you cannot swap here because you will die. That was one thing, I've been punished so much by this boss. I'm starting to kind of learn now from my mistakes. You can't do certain things, and the timing is everything. Timing is literally everything. All right, here we go. There we go, another parry. So as long as you learn the sequences, you'll be fine. But the other thing is depending on the boss, the sequence will change. Like some will start shooting more projectiles. This is a little bit more of a close-up fight versus some of the other fights where like the Morning AX, it's going to be more projectiles happening. So it's like if you're not aware of that, got to dodge that, and we can't swap because otherwise somebody dies. Oh, other way. He was facing the other way. Oh, too much, too early. There we go. Okay. All right, we can maybe do this with the time we have allotted. I'm not sure though. There we go. We got that one right there. Dodge the death beam. Yeah, like this is close. Oh, come on, dude. Don't drop it now. There we go. All right, so I don't know. We're not going to have enough time. But this, again, is just to give you guys a perspective on how ridiculous this gets. Now, in front, never can get that one. I'm too far away. You got to move in closer on that to get that parry. So, yeah, that's how it is, guys. Like, it's a super sweat fest. If you get it, you get it. If you just don't, you don't. And so being more aware of how this aspect of the game works is going to be very, very important for you to be able to, again, really take the time to learn your characters. And that's what I would say is the most important thing. Like it does say like echo level and skill level and weapon level, all that stuff can be improved, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't beat these things if you're not, if you're actually learning and understanding the mechanics well enough. So these things do matter to a degree, but it's not everything. I've seen some people even doing some of these things under leveled, which is great, right? And so that's kind of what the value of like the tactical hologram has been after, like I said, putting in this time after 50 hours. I'm still having to feel like, man, it's still a lot of learning I got to do. There's still a lot of getting good I have to do. And I think that that is just such a great thing for the game to have. Now, lastly, after 50 hours, we, of course, have to go over in a constructive manner the issues, right? And I've already touched on things like where I feel like personally there should be more echoes, but I'm hoping that there isn't a diminishing value in terms of what we're able to see in the open world. But I will say it would make it feel more filled to some degree. But it also kind of begs the question of what exactly is Kuro going for with the open world? Are they trying to make it feel desolate? And even with that, I still feel like for the player experience, it would be nice as long as they keep the values where you're still able to have the chances of getting echoes, because the other thing you're up against is the RNG of finding the proper stats. So I don't really think having more echoes out in the world with the same exact drop rate they have would actually really hurt the game in any way, because there's already going to be extensive grinding for whatever set number of characters that you have. And so I really am, again, looking forward to see what they do with the feedback from that, because I think that that is going to be super valuable to a piece of content that I think a lot of players are finding that they like a lot more than what they thought they were going to. Now, of course, with that, I think another thing that is really important to touch back on is, of course, the ease of access to being able to beat content versus the difficulty of it. And I will even say that we're all in agreement that yes, the storyline could have definitely been a little bit more challenging or more difficult, but it's also really important that, again, like I made this joke earlier, but somebody is going to die to that crownless fight in CBT2. And I think that we have to be aware of the fact that for what it's worth, if we want this game to be able to reach the heights that we want it to reach, it has to cater to the types of players that are going to be coming in from those said types of games. And I think Kuro is very aware of the fact that there is a massive casual market that this game is going to be by default catering to. And so with that, it doesn't mean that the game forever has to be an easy entry, but I definitely think that one compromise we can definitely make is the scaling of how the game might start out versus, like I said, where I don't mind these things to be implemented like PVs, right? I think that the PVs you can get beat up as much as you want, and it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. But I definitely think that with the fights, as long as they continue to progressively get harder, which they do, I feel like that's going to be one of the bread and butter things that they can kind of tap into, because say we get to a certain point, then yes, by then you should not be over here complaining about the fact that you can't figure out the parry window. And those individuals that are concerned and upset that they can't just button mash, I mean, then that might not be a game for you to pick up then, because it's just not how the game is designed. And I think that with the respect of each game, whereas like when Genshin, you have to learn the elemental reactions. That's a very important functionality for you to be able to get things to work work properly, I think it's the same thing that can be said about Wuthering Waves. You have to learn the mechanics, parry windows, and what your characters are doing. And I would even argue that for the Generation 1 characters that we have, they are very simple. They're not anywhere near as complicated as what I feel like Kuro could have done, but they have made it very digestible, and a lot of these characters are really good, considering that I'm myself personally experiencing the game from a free-to-play experience and standpoint. So I really am looking forward to also seeing what they do with that feedback, because I really honestly truly believe that they are going to listen to players that want to see some of these changes implemented. Now, I would say one of the last concerns that I have is truly honestly more so on the note of the identity and who that Kuro is choosing to cater to. I think that it's safe to say that, again, Wuthering Waves is going to be drawing in audiences that really have not been touched by the gacha genre of the open world games like DMC, Nier Nier Automata, then as well as Monster Hunter. Like, those genres are now, I'm starting to see more players coming that love the Elden Ring, that love the Bloodborne, and they're like, dude, this is one of the few gachas that's actually snagged my attention, and I'm so excited and hyped to play it. And I really hope that they continue to scale the content, giving us more things that are able to build on functionalities or systems like the Elusive Realm. Now, the last statement I want to make, and this is in terms of the making the game familiar, right? And I think it is safe to say that the game having functionalities of, say, for example, Genshin Impact, but being able to tweak them and make them better is not a bad thing, right? We constantly keep this emphasis of we want the game to be so indifferent that we don't think that certain functionalities being made better is going to necessarily be a net positive. And it absolutely is. If Wuthering Waves sees something that Genshin is doing, and maybe if they're doing it well, but they can figure out a way to put their own sauce on it and do it even better, that's what we call innovation. That's not copying. Now, if it's like, literally system for system, it's the exact same thing, and there's nothing different that can be said about it, then that, of course, could be called copying. But if you have functionalities and systems that are built upon and they're refined and they're made better, that is just the history of gaming and innovation. And so my biggest thing and what I'm really excited to see with Wuthering Waves is them to continue to innovate and to make things better than what it already is, because there's a many things that we like from different games. But imagine being able to have some of your favorite things in a game that is all in one from multiple games, but it's made even better. And so I'm really, really looking forward to that as well and what they're able to do. But nonetheless, 50 hours in, I will say I'm still excited. I'm still hyped. I'm still extremely optimistic about what this game is going to be able to do. And I don't believe that this game is overhyped. And I haven't thought it was overhyped. I thought that this game has deserved every last bit of hype that it's gotten. And I really, really, truly, honestly am just ready for launch. I really am. But of course, I think it is important for them to take the time necessary to cook out the best game that they possibly can, because we don't want any mishaps. But I'll have some more videos as we push forward, getting into some more of my thoughts in terms of maybe even when this game might be released. If you guys are interested in any more content coming from this channel, definitely make sure that you guys like and subscribe, because I will be doing other videos getting into the time that we spent on CBT, just to kind of give you guys a rough idea at certain pivotal points as what has maybe potentially changed in my opinion, and as well as what I've either unlocked or have seen or have experienced, so that you guys can firsthand be ready for when this game decides to push forward for the official release. So that's going to be that, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys